Welcome, everyone. This is Pastor Bob, and it's time for our midweek message. And today I want to unpack a passage that happens to be one of my favorites. And in my sermon preparation for Sunday, it's one I came across, and we'll talk a little bit about it on Sunday, but I want to unpack it a little bit more here. And it happens to be a passage that has contributed to one of the longest running debates in Christianity. It's a passage that was so controversial that when Martin Luther decided to write a Bible in the vernacular so that everybody could read it, he wanted to remove this entire book from his new Bible. It's a passage that for years, whether you're a seminarian or sitting around a group in a Bible study, people have debated. And I'm not going to provide any answers, and I'm not going to settle this debate today, but I do want to talk about it a little bit because I think there's a lot we can gain from it, even without noticing or coming to a conclusion and landing a particular place. One of the challenges I think Christians have in religion, especially, is they want to find easy answers. They don't want to hold beliefs in tension, or that maybe two different beliefs could be both and, depending on the situation. Christianity is very, very complex. Our world is very complex. Spirituality is very complex, and sometimes there are areas of our spiritual faith and our walk and our cognitive reasoning around our spirituality that don't land in one nice, easy place. And this is one of those examples. And so let me read the passage and see if you can guess exactly what I'm talking about. So this is found in James 2:14. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but have no works? Can that faith even save you? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of them says, "Go, be in peace, keep warm, eat your fill," yet does nothing to supply their needs, what good is that? Such faith by itself, with no works, is dead. But someone will say, "You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I, by my works, will show you my faith. You believe in God? You do well. But so does the devil, and shudders. Do you want to be shown, you senseless person?" That's actually a softened translation. The language James is using here is more "you fool, you idiot." So obviously James feels very strongly about what he's saying here, but I'll continue. That faith apart from works is barren. Was it not your ancestor Abraham justified by his works when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that faith was active along with works, and he continues. So you can probably get where this conversation is going. It's the debate between faith and works. It's one that Christians have wrestled with for 2,000 years. Um, what's become very popular in contemporary culture is that I can just believe and I'm good. I get my go to heaven free card and my get out of hell free card all at once. And it's just as long as I passively believe in Jesus, I am good. I don't have anything to worry about. Matter of fact, I drive sometimes down 75 South when I go to visit family over in that area. And there's a big billboard for this local prosperity gospel mega church. And it says, "Only believe." That's it. And send the money, of course. And so there are people today, it's become very popular, that I can just be a Christian and just by believing. And the reason that's very popular because it doesn't require any effort, doesn't require study, it doesn't require being part of a group, doesn't require growing spiritually, growing in love, growing in knowledge. It's easy. You can just passively identify as a Christian, and away you go. Now, there's another side to that. There are some people who sound a lot like James, even take James a bit further and say, you know what? If you're not living as a Christian and serving the poor and clothing the naked, and if you're not doing all those things, then your faith is worthless. Faith alone is no good. You need to be sold out for Christ. Sell everything you have, give to the poor, live like a mendicant order, become a monk, go 100% in, because if you don't, then you probably don't really believe, and thus you are not saved. So you got two sides there. And I'm not going to settle the debate, but I will propose this, how I reconcile this debate and have for many years. And I think that when you look at the totality of Scripture, not take Paul's passages or James' passages out of their context and pit them against each other. If you look at the totality of Scripture, it's a both and. It's a tension that is being portrayed between faith and works that we live within. It's not an easy answer. It's not black or white. It's one of the many areas where there's a gray. It's one of the many areas where there is a highly situational, highly contextual view that needs to be incorporated into the life of the believer, which is nobody likes. Nobody likes. We want easy answers, black and white. We want a 12-point statement of faith, and we're good, and boil it all down to that. And I get it. I'm that way too. But let me illustrate what maybe it would look like to hold those beliefs in tension. A few years back, I had an older lady, very wise woman, say to me that when she gets to heaven, she wants there to be, she's assuming there's a judgment and God is sitting there as judge. She wants enough evidence to be there to convict her of being a Christian. And I thought that's very noble. Scripture does talk about storing up treasure in heaven as opposed to storing up treasure on earth. Jesus gives us a whole list of things that we ought to be doing, from forgiving and loving to feeding the poor. Why would he give us that list if we weren't supposed to do it, if we could just sit on our couch and say, I believe and I'm good? It's both and. Belief is essential, but perhaps that's a first step and the last step. We first start to believe, and that belief impels us to make different decisions and choices. How we react with people, how we spend our money, how we dedicate ourselves to our relationships or our marriage. That belief, if it's a real belief, not just a passing acknowledgement, we're going to talk more about that on Sunday and the difference. But if it is a belief and you really hold to it, then there will be, from that belief, changes. Beliefs matter. On the other token, there are some people, because of life situations or time constraints or whatever it might be, they may have a whole lot of belief in their heart, but maybe are not able to do the works as prescribed as much as the guy down the road. Does that mean their belief is any less? No, they're just at a place in life where they're unable to live out those beliefs. And so that's just a couple of situations. I'll let you fill in many other situations. But my point is that it's a belief you hold in tension. It's both and. You should have faith. You should have works. There's not one that is the end point or the deciding factor. There's not one that is the definitive rule for which you get into heaven. One of the examples I often hear around Lent, and I'll see it posted on Facebook, is they will take the thief on the cross. This is the example they'll use. They'll say, well, the thief on the cross, he's right there next to Jesus. He's dying. He believes in Jesus, and Jesus says to him, today you will be with me in paradise. And they'll point to that and say, look, he didn't have any works, but he is up in heaven now. Well, he couldn't do any works. He met Jesus, believed in him, and at that same moment was going to pass away. That doesn't apply to you and I, because God has given us, hopefully, a whole lifetime for which to do works, for which to live out our faith, for which to practice it and move from beyond a mere identity or a belief to a lived out reality encompassing the entire person. We have that opportunity, and so it would probably be better for us to not squander it. We can't use the thief on the cross as an excuse. There are other examples I can give you. Jesus gives a parable, and I'll just paraphrase it, of 3 workers. One works an hour, one works 3 hours, one works 9 hours. The one that works 1 hour, you would think, hey, they're not going to get as big a reward as the other one. But believe it or not, in this Jesus, in a big twist, he says, God is the deciding factor. He is the one. And if he decides to elevate the 1 hour worker person, and I'm paraphrasing for illustrative purposes, you can read it yourself if you want the details. But he says, if I'm God, if I decide the 1 hour worker gets the same reward as the 20-hour worker, that's God. God is sovereign. So it's not as clear as we think. It's not as black and white. And so how do we live this out as believers? Well, I, again, do both and. I will work and cultivate my faith. I will do things to encourage my faith, to strengthen. For me, what strengthens my faith is supporting it with reason, finding my faith is logical and coherent in truth. Um, for me, my faith gets stronger every time it's confirmed by a scientific study or by something I discover within Scripture that makes a whole bunch of things connect. I will continually work on my faith. At the same time, I will allow my faith, which is changing me and transforming me, to be lived out in the things I do. And I will be intentional about doing those. Now, when I get to heaven, I'm not going to worry, God, did I have enough faith? Or did I have enough works? I'm just going to live out both, hold them in tension, hold them together, do the best I can in the opportunities presented before me. I'm going to be faithful in my marriage, and I'm going to live that out. I'm going to be faithful in my giving to the poor, and I'm going to live that out. I'm going to go to church and be part of God's community and kingdom here, and I'm going to live that out. I'm going to do both and without worrying about where each position is weighted in the eyes of God. And that requires a lot of trust. I'm not trying to figure out my salvation and whether I'm getting into heaven. I'm going to be faithful, even holding beliefs in tension, and trust that God has the bigger picture and knows what I'm doing and what my heart is. Only God can see the big picture in each of our lives. That's why we should never judge other people, by the way, because you can't see what's in their heart. You can't see their background. You can't see their upbringing. You can't see their cognitive ability. You can't see their emotional state. We should never judge another person and say that person's going to heaven or that person. We have no clue, but God does. And I trust him to look at my imperfect self with all my flaws and look at all I've done and how I've tried to balance faith and works and try to nurture and grow both of them. I just trust God and I leave it in his hands. So I don't even worry about the debate. I've never lost an ounce of sleep at night. I'm just going to be faithful and follow God and trust him that somehow through holding those in tension and working on both, that I'm going to get it right. So debate, I don't even see it as a debate. Perhaps it's just an academic debate, but I've seen a lot of people struggle with it. Perhaps it's just something, one of the 10,000 different things theologians and pastors squabble about. Maybe, but it doesn't have to be. I trust God in the fullness of all that he is and has done and has given to us, that through him it will all work out. I'm not a moment worried about it. So have the debate with your friends, argue, pull up other scriptures, pull up other examples, have fun with it, but don't let it interfere with your spiritual life. Hold them in tension and just be faithful and you'll work out fine. So anyway, that's our message for the week. I will see you guys on Sunday. Thanks.